Hey Colts fans, I'm JJ Stankevitz and welcome into another episode of the Colts Show, an Indianapolis Colts podcast and a big podcast because not only do we have news of who the Colts starting quarterback is, you already know that by now, it's Daniel Jones, but we got wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. joining me here on the pod in just a little bit. We're going to get into plenty about Daniel Jones being the Colts starting quarterback, a lot to get to with Michael Pittman Jr., and then a lot to get to with the Colts Show Mailbag with a question about where this season's going and what realistic expectations are for the 2025 Colts. All right, without any further delay, let's get to my conversation with Michael Pittman Jr. right after these messages. Colts fans, season tickets are sold out for the 2025 season, but fans interested in 2026 and beyond can join the Forever Blue waitlist presented by Ticketmaster. It's free and includes exclusive pre-sales and offers. You can sign up now at Colts.com/waitlist. The Colts 5K and Blues Fun Run returns September 6th. That's the day before the Colts season opener. New this year, runners can add a discounted ticket to any of our 3 AFC South home games. Sign up today at Colts5K.com. This year, we're honoring Jim Irsay's legacy with special tributes, including a commemorative lapel pin featuring the on-field patch design. It's available only at the Colts Pro Shop, and proceeds will benefit Kicking the Stigma. It's my pleasure to be joined here on the Colts Show by wide receiver Michael Pittman Jr. Pitt, how's it going, man?
It's great. Great to be here. Thank you.
We were just chatting before. You're going to have the third child here coming soon. What's the most dad thing that you do?
Probably the most dad thing that I do now is I always take a sip of all of my kids' drinks before I give it to them.
Okay.
And take a bite of whatever I'm about to give them first. And that's probably the most dad thing I do, other than being the tickle monster. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's another dad thing.
See, I'm a big whatever they don't eat is what I eat.
Oh yeah.
I'm you get the muffins from the store, and it's I'm just gonna rip off this part that they ate, and I'm just gonna take the rest of it to the face because that'd be wasteful.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many times where I go get them ice cream, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not gonna get any, and then I don't get any, and then they don't finish theirs, and I'm looking at them oh, and then I'll just have a couple bites.
Yeah. That's what dads have to do. Because again, it would be wasteful. All right. Colts named a starting quarterback this week. It's Daniel Jones. What have you learned about Daniel over the last couple of months that you've been in meeting rooms with him, you've been on the practice field with him, in games with him?
Yeah, I mean, I like to say I think that both quarterbacks competed their tails off, and I just like to congratulate both of them. And I think Anthony showed major improvement. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, as a team, that we decided to go with Daniel, and Daniel had a great camp too. And we are excited for Dan, and we're still looking to pull AR forward and keep on coaching him up and getting better. But I just say that Daniel's consistency and his routine really caught people's eye. He's in there every day, extra film. His workout routine, his pre-practice routine, his level of professionalism, and that's not to say that AR wasn't doing the same things too, but just speaking to him specifically, just really caught your eye.
You can tell that he's probably been able to hone that routine over 6-7 years in the NFL. I think you said he's just constantly watching film when you were talking with the media the other day.
Yeah.
And you'll go in there and he'll kind of talk through stuff with you. What have you maybe picked up just about that wealth of experience that he does have from starting 69 games in the NFL?
Yeah, I mean, we're just able to talk about things before they happen. So we'll be mid practice, hey, if they do this, we're going to do this. Kind of the same things that I saw from some of the older quarterbacks that we had, like Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz. Because he's not quite that old yet, but
he's 28.
Yeah. So, but he's just got that maturity aspect. He's very approachable, which my first year, going up to Phil, I didn't dare go up to Phil and ask him a question, just because I was a rookie. But and you just kind of relate to him, right? So. Said I think that everybody has taken to him very well.
So what's your message been to Anthony this week, given the close relationship you have with him kind of in the wake of this news?
Yeah, so I actually told him today is don't stop doing the things that you were doing, because he was improving.
Mm-hmm.
He still is, and he's still so young that for him to give up now, I mean, like, I think would be like a huge waste. Now he's not doing that, but I just want to encourage him to keep on pushing forward. He's so dang young. I mean, quarterbacks can play until they're 40 years old. I mean, he's 23.
Mm-hmm.
So there's still so much football ahead of him, and then I want to see him get there and basically achieve everything that he set out to.
What do you think his mentality's been this week? Because when he talked with the media on Tuesday, he was very professional. I thought he went about it in a way that was very mature for a guy who, like you said, he's only 23 years old.
Yeah. I mean, I think Ant has been great. I mean, the way that he handles all this pressure, like, he handles it like a real pro. I mean, like, there's lots of guys that would be like, you know what, forget this. Like, they're doing me wrong. Like, I'm going to give up. I'm going to skip out, demand a trade. And he hasn't done any of that, Like, he's stuck around here, and he's going to keep working. I see him still, like, grinding and getting better each day. And I think that's really, like, his goal, just get better each day. And then, like, we'll look up and like, he'll, just like, you never know what happens. You know, Geno Smith, Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, just like all guys who people wrote off,
Real quick tangent, because you brought up Sam Darnold. So, because I was going back and I was like, when did you start at USC? So it was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
You had 7 tackles that year?
Yeah.
So you're playing special teams.
Special teams, yeah.
Should every player have to play special teams to start their, whether it's college, high school, NFL career?
I think it helps. Like, I kind of wanted to play special teams because when I went to USC, I wanted to play defense. And,
really?
And I remember when I got there, T. Martin, the quarterback coach of the Ravens now, basically forced me into receiver. And I was mad about it. And the only way that I got to kind of play defense was on special teams. So I actually ended up, I think that year, I was like all Pac-12 special teams. And then the next year I did the same thing. So just because I was mad, I'm like, I'm really a defensive player, and they got me playing receiver. Like I don't want to do that. And that's kind of how I got my defense in.
What did playing special teams teach you about, like, the grind that it takes to, play at a high level?
Yeah, I just always took it like no one is too good to, like, play on teams. And I really took that, like, mindset, because I really thought the way that I was going to get into the pros was playing special teams, because I had heard so many people talk about, hey, to be a pro player, like, you got to play teams. Because at that point, like, I'm a freshman, I have no tape. I mean, I haven't made any plays yet, so I'm like, I'm going to ball out on special teams. And I ended up being the only offensive freshman to not redshirt.
Really?
Yeah.
2016.
Yeah, 2016.
Okay, that's impressive.
Yeah.
And that was a good 10-3. Played in the Rose Bowl that year.
So we won the Rose Bowl versus Saquon's Penn State.
Penn State.
Yeah.
All right, let's run it back to this year's team.
Mm-hmm.
Since we were just talking about USC and Penn State, let's talk about Tyler Warren. Sorry.
Yeah.
What has impressed you about, maybe not the way that he plays on the practice field, but everything else that you see behind the scenes from him?
He's just a solid dude in everything that he does. Like, off the field, you can just count on him. He's a super chill guy. I mean, we've gone fishing a couple times. I actually took him to one of my secret spots where he caught a monster of a bass.
I saw you posted it. That thing was huge.
So it was huge. The bass was just shy of 5 pounds, but the frame on it was huge. If that was a pre-spawn bass, that bass could have been anywhere between 7 to almost 8 pounds if it was full of eggs and spawn. So
that's the kind of analysis we're getting here
on
the Colts Show. Pre-spawn bass. Heck yeah.
I mean, that bass is frame and its mouth was ginormous. Like, I was shocked that it was it was like 4.9 pounds, which is still a monster bass.
That's hard to pull out of the water.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, and we were fishing topwater frogs, so just watching it just snatch that topwater was awesome.
Okay. Him is like you're talking about him being like a solid dude. What else about him just in the building, like the work ethic he has, the hours and the time he puts into this thing?
Yeah, his personality is he's all business, but he has a little goofy side to
Okay.
him. And he loves movie quotes. He's always talking in like movie quotes, and he knows every single movie, every quote, and I don't know how he does it. But I mean, that guy is a movie guy, so if you ever have a chance, ask him about it, and he'll be able to spit out any quote from any movie that you can name.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
That's an impressive skill to have. This collection of weapons on offense between you, obviously Tyler, Alec, Josh, AD, Mo, Will, Drew, JT, DJ, Tyler, all the way down. This looks like a very deep group of skill guys on this offense. How do you see you guys all complementing each other during this season?
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many ways that I think that we can get it done that pretty much anybody could take over on any given day. So that really just gives us options, like however we want to attack teams that you can't double somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you double
Right.
somebody, all right, well, there's 3 other guys like that are going to go like and get you. So if teams are going to drop back, then JT's going to run on them. If they're going to bring that front up, like then we're going to air them out. So just having that philosophy like in mindset.
How has going against Lou's defense in practice challenged you as a wide receiver?
Absolutely. I mean, Lou's defense runs around and like it's so hard to tell what they're getting to because they show something and then they get to something else, but they're only getting to half on this side. Then that other side looks like something else. And like when you're kind of doing your pre-snap read and the ball snaps and like everyone's moving, it's really hard to like really know like what they're running. And that causes confusion for wideouts, for quarterbacks. And like that's part of the frustrating thing is like just like you think it's going to something and then they go to something else, but then that other side was something completely, and then you're running across the field like into something that you don't know what it is. But Lou's done a really good job, like just like with those guys. There's so many backers flying through the middle, breaking up passes and everything. Like it really is confusing. And the first week that we went up against his defense, like I was like, I don't even know what they're doing. Like just like I don't know what coverage that is. Don't know what they're doing. It kind of looks like man, kind of looks like 2, kind of looks like 4. You know, like just like don't know.
But then that probably forces a lot of communication between you and, whether it was Daniel or AR or your other, receivers out there. Like, how did that maybe force you to like, okay, hey, we don't really know what they're doing. We need to hone in on certain things, if there's anything there.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, I think that how much man that they play has definitely helped us out because in past defenses, like we ran lots of zone. So on games that we did get man, we didn't necessarily have the same tool belt or the same toolbox that we have now because we go up against it every single day. So I think it's going to help us out a lot. Like once we play those teams that are man teams.
Right on. It's great insight from USC wide receiver number 11, Michael Pittman Jr. Thanks for joining me here on the Colts Show.
Thank you.
All right, back here on the Colts Show. Time for the Colts Show Mailbag. Remember, you can submit your questions at Colts.com/mailbag. Drop them in the YouTube comments of this episode or get me on social media at JJ Stankevitz. Next week, we're going to have a big season preview episode coming up. Hopefully get a couple mailbag questions I can answer. Usually you only get to one in the podcast. But hit me with your questions about the overall outlook, maybe some specifics about this team that you're interested in learning about for next week's episode. But we're going to kind of kick off a season preview with a question from friend of the pod, Jason Freed from Carmel, Indiana. And Jason asks, with Daniel Jones being named the starting quarterback of this team this week, what are realistic expectations for this team in 2025? And so I've been sitting on this one. I've been thinking about it. I've been kind of marinating on it almost. Like it's been in the fridge for a while. We're ready to hit the grill with this take. Because, and the starting point here is I wrote about this on Colts.com on Tuesday that Shane Steichen, ever since March, he has had the same line when he's been asked about what will determine the outcome of your quarterback competition. And it's been consistency from the quarterback position. So I've been thinking about that word a lot this week of like, okay, what does consistency mean? Because Shane Steichen went with Daniel Jones in this competition because of consistency, because he believes Daniel Jones is a more consistent quarterback. And real quick as an aside, I hear you, I hear fans, I hear listeners, I hear people wanting the starting quarterback to be Anthony Richardson Sr. I hear it, I see it. It's impossible to not, right? And I understand why fans are maybe not super excited about this, because you want to buy into a quarterback. We thought Anthony Richardson was going to be the starter of this team for a long time, and for a team that's kind of been through the quarterback wilderness, drafting a guy 4th overall, you want it to be that guy. But here's where I think this Colts team has a really good chance to be competitive this year. And it goes back to 2023, where that year Anthony Richardson started 4 games. He completed 2 of them. Really, technically only 1. He actually played the whole game against the Rams because he ended that Jags game on the sidelines. Anyways, Gardner Minshew played most of the games that year, right? That 9-8 team was a lot of Gardner Minshew. And the Colts, I mean, I don't want to diminish it, but they were 1 4th down conversion away from probably winning the division. How did that happen that year? Like, think about it. How did that happen? Because that Colts team was a good team, but it was a team that almost felt like it maybe punched above its weight a little bit when you look at some of the underlying numbers. So the starting point, that defense that year, the Colts were 28th in scoring defense. They allowed 24.4 points per game. So that season was not based on a defense that was just dominating and a quarterback that could just kind of manage it, right? Gardner Minshew had to win some games. Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss had to win some games. But again, that team, they went 9-8. So let's start here. What do you think Gardner Minshew's completion percentage was in 2023? Like, think about it. Based on like how that season felt, what do you think it was? Because when I went into it, when I looked it up, I was like, that's probably 65%. Gardner Minshew completed 62.2% of his passes that year. It's on the lower end of what I think the Colts believe they can get out of Daniel Jones. Gardner Minshew that year, like this offense, like the Colts built the plane that year out of RPOs, mostly to Michael Pittman Jr., and handoffs to Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. And Gardner Minshew that year, if you look at some of his underlying numbers, he wasn't throwing it downfield a whole lot. He had the 12th lowest average depth of target in the NFL that year at 7.8 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. He had the 9th lowest percentage of throws that went past the sticks at 36.1%. He had the 4th lowest big-time throw percentage. So that's like Pro Football Focus tracks throws that you're like, that's a throw that is difficult to make and difficult to complete that a quarterback makes. He had the 4th lowest percentage of those at 2.9%. The thing was with Gardner Minshew, he had a 1.8% interception rate. That was 13th in the NFL. It was below league average, so that's good. You want to be below league average there. So that's what Gardner Minshew did that year. And Gardner Minshew, in his 13 starts that he had, the Colts went 7-6. He 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, passer rating of 84.6. Again, completion percentage at 62%, lower than what I thought it was going to be. So where am I going with this? I think the Colts, when they're talking about consistency from the quarterback position, they are looking at the rest of this roster and saying, this is the best roster we've had under Shane Steichen. And okay, let's take the offense here to start. So moving down the depth chart, the Colts in 2023, I think they got good Jonathan Taylor. They didn't get great Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor in that year was, if you remember, he kind of had the ankle thing to start the season. He didn't play until week 5. Even then, he didn't really get going until later in the year. And he only had 741 rushing yards that year. He averaged 4.4 yards per carry. Last year, Jonathan Taylor, he was one of 3 running backs in the NFL to average over 100 yards a game. It was him, it was Derrick Henry, and it was Saquon Barkley. So the Colts got good Jonathan Taylor in 2023, but he missed some time at the start of the season, in the middle of the season. They got good play out of Zach Moss, but they didn't have a great running game. And then without Anthony Richardson in there, the quarterback run game was kind of non-existent, except for Gardner Minshew doing that little shimmy against the Browns. In 2024, you got great Jonathan Taylor. 11 touchdowns, 102 yards a game. He was at 4.7 per. He was a Pro Bowl guy. you got great Jonathan Taylor over 300-plus carries last year. So maybe just at running back, maybe your running back depth isn't as strong as it was in 2023 because Zach Moss is a really good backup. DJ Giddens is a rookie. Tyler Goodson, Zach Moss is established. Those guys need to establish themselves. It could be better this year, but I think you'd probably take 2023's depth. But I'll take the top of the depth chart in 2025 for the Colts over 2023. Wide receiver. All right, this is kind of where I had been thinking about this a lot. So in 2023, you have the same three top receivers the Colts have now. Michael Pittman Jr., Josh Downs, Alec Pierce. Josh Downs was a rookie. He had a really good year. Alec Pierce had yet to have that breakout. And Michael Pittman Jr., had the 100-catch, 1,000-yard season with some heavy usage that year. So you have those same top three. But now the depth. This is where the Colts are better off. In 2023, let's just throw this out there. Think about who do you think had the most snaps, the third, fourth, and fifth most snaps among Colts wide receivers in 2023. That year, because Ashton Dulin tore his ACL in training camp, A.D. Mitchell, Anthony Gould, those guys weren't here yet. So that year, your number 4 through 6 guys were Isaiah McKenzie, DJ Montgomery, and Juwan Winfrey. This year, those next 3 guys will be A.D. Mitchell, Ashton Dulin, and Anthony Gould. So those are guys you've invested draft picks in. The Colts have re-signed Ashton Dulin a couple times. They value his versatility there. Obviously, A.D. Mitchell's had a really impressive and encouraging preseason. So, the Colts, when they got down the stretch in 2023, if you remember that game against the Falcons in Week 16, they lost 29-10. It was one of the worst games of the year the Colts played. Alec Pierce is healthy for that game. And then it was your DJ Montgomery. You're looking at, some guys down the roster. Josh Downs did play in that game, but Michael Pittman Jr. missed that game. And it was like the depth at wide receiver just wasn't quite there in that game. And that really cost the Colts. You look at that game, you look at the Bengals game where they lost 34-14, where the defense maybe let them down a little bit, but they're just there wasn't juice at wide receiver in those games. All right, so that's wide receiver. Now let's get to tight end where the Colts took Tyler Warren in the first round. All I can say about Tyler Warren is that he's had as good of a training camp as I think I could have anticipated out of him. Given, rookie tight end, he's been so heavily used throughout training camp practices. Daniel Jones is throwing him the ball a ton. Anthony Richardson's throwing him the ball a ton. He looks fluid. He looks natural. He looks physical out there. I don't know what a stat projection is for him, but in 2023, the Colts' leading tight end was Kylan Granson, who had 30 catches for 368 yards and 1 touchdown on 50 targets. I think Tyler Warren probably eclipses all those numbers this year. I think the Colts tight ends are in a better place. Offensive line, this is an interesting one because you don't have Ryan Kelly and Will Fries in there like you had in 2023. The thing that you got to remember about that year is that going into 2023, Will Fries was a question mark. He was fine down the stretch in 2022. The Colts said, hey, you're going to be our starting right guard. And I remember in camp, it was kind of this development of him to get, to where he was going. There were some days where Will Fries had some rough days in that training camp. And then he built on it. He wound up being a really, really good player for the Colts that year. So the Colts this year, you got Tanner Bortolini at center, Matt Gonzalez at right guard. You could say, well, the offensive line is a little bit more unsettled. But that year, Blake Freeland played 702 snaps. At tackle, Braden Smith played 575. So you had Blake Freeland, a rookie who I think everyone, coming into his rookie year said he needs to get stronger. He was out there playing quite a few snaps. And then at center, Wesley French played 270 snaps, and both those guys did admirable jobs with the snaps they were given. But it's not like the Colts had this rock-solid starting 5 you could count on every single game. There was a little bit of fluctuation there. So the point of this is to say the Colts maybe had a better offensive line. You could say what they had in 2023 is better than what you might expect going into 2025. But I'm not so sure that's how it's going to wind up. I think Bortolini and Gonzalez, as they get more experience, I think they can really grow into who they're going to be as players, just like Will Fries did that year. And by November, December, we might be saying, that offensive line is totally fine. As long as, again, you get the starters out there. Anyways, the offensive infrastructure, that's all to say. The offensive infrastructure in 2025 is better on the whole than it was in 2023. Can Daniel Jones be a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew was in 2023? I think he can. Gardner Minshew gave it all he freaking had that year. I loved watching that dude play. He battled. He was scrappy. But Daniel Jones is a more talented quarterback. There's a reason why Daniel Jones was a 6th overall pick and Gardner Minshew was a 6th-round pick. Jones is a more talented quarterback. And situation matters so much here. So, you can look at Daniel Jones and you can say, all right, well, he was 24-44-1 with the Giants, and he had a passer rating of 84.3, which with the Giants, which, by the way, was Gardner Minshew's passer rating in 2023, fun fact. And you could say, what are the Colts really going to get out of him? Look at his track record. Well, Gardner Minshew in 2024, when he went to the Raiders, a team that was in, let's call it disarray, Gardner Minshew that year went 2-7 as the Raiders starter. Was Gardner Minshew like a markedly worse quarterback from his age 27 to age 28 season? I don't think so. But his stats were way worse. He had 9 touchdowns and 10 picks. He threw more picks on like 180 fewer attempts in 2024 than he did in 2023. And I think a lot of that goes into what structure was he in? Well, what structure is Daniel Jones coming into now? I think we need to remember Shane Steichen has a really good reputation around the NFL. This is a guy who's, let's not forget, 2022 was the Eagles offensive coordinator when they put up, 35 points in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. He is a really sound offensive mind. His concepts have been proven to work in the NFL, and I think he's looking at it as, if I have a consistent quarterback with this collection of weapons, this run game that we have, this depth at wide receiver, this first-round tight end, and we have consistency at quarterback, why can't we be a good, functionally good offense in the NFL? I don't know if you're looking at Daniel Jones and saying, no, there's a top 10 quarterback there. I think that would be an unfair expectation to place on him. But to be a good, solid NFL starting quarterback, to be at that line where you can win with this guy in the right system and the right structure, again, for all these reasons I just laid out about the offense, I think it's a good spot. I think there's a chance. Give it a chance, is what I'm saying. And now let's talk about the defense. Because that Colts 2023 defense, just like the offense kind of built the plane out of RPOs and running plays, that defense built the plane out of sacks. They were top 5 in the NFL. They had 50-plus sacks that year. They didn't have the singular, 15-sack guy, but Samson Ebukam had 9.5. You had Kwity Paye, DeForest Buckner, Dio Odangbo all up there with a bunch of sacks. But this team was 16th in yards per play allowed. They were 16th in takeaways. They were, again, 28th in points allowed. They were okay in some situations on third down and red zone. But this was not a dominant defense that was leading the charge of a team that was fighting to make the playoffs in Week 18. So if this Lou Anarumo defense that has looked very good during training camp, I was talking to Zaire Franklin today, and he was just talking about how the D-line has been setting the tone, which is great news, especially considering all the injuries in the secondary. If this D-line can be an engine for a defense schemed up by a guy who is a secondary coach by nature, that, rush and cover got to work together. That could work out really well. If this defense is able to get to 15th in points allowed per game, that is not saying this is a top 10 defense. They're around almost league average in points allowed per game, and this offense is consistently moving the ball up and down the field. Maybe they're taking a couple of shots here and there, but it's not like, we've seen in years, with Anthony Richardson. And they're consistently moving the chains, staying ahead of the chains, and scoring points when they get in the red zone. Why can't this team be competitive? Based on, again, in 2023, this team's scrapping together a 9-8 record with quarterback play that was inconsistent. Gardner Minshew, again, I don't want to, I loved watching Gardner play, like I said, but their quarterback play was a little bit inconsistent that year. And they found a way to go 9-8. And again, almost 10-7 and win the freaking division. So I don't get the doom and gloom. I don't get this Colts team is like 28th in power rankings. I'm like, they haven't been that bad since 2022 when Shane Steichen was still the offensive coordinator of the Eagles and Daniel Jones was winning a playoff game in New York. So I think there's more of a ceiling for this team than people realize. And you might be sitting here and be like, I don't want to hear it. That's spin zone. But like, as I looked at this, I was like, I don't know. I kind of buy it. I kind of buy this as a roster that you can win with a quarterback who can give you good play. Just like good, solid, consistent play. Now, the question about this team, I think the biggest question I have is just like cornerback and what's going on there. It was good to see Jalen Jones and Juju Brents out at practice again this week. Xavier Howard coming in. We'll see what the Colts can get out of him. We'll get into all of that next week with the cornerbacks and a lot more about this team. But like top to bottom, I think this is a better roster than the Colts had in 2023. And there is a very realistic world where they get better quarterback play than they had in 2023. So why can't that produce a winning team and a contending team? Just something to think about as you maybe kind of work through wrapping your head around Daniel Jones being the quarterback of this team, because I know I've had to go kind of back and forth of like, okay, well, how can the Colts build a contender with Daniel Jones versus Anthony Richardson? It's going to look different. And I think it just goes to everything else that's in place. And the last thing I'll say here is, and this is not a comparison to Jalen Hurts. It is absolutely not that. But I don't think, most things I listen to involving like the top quarterbacks in the NFL, usually Jalen Hurts is not a part of that conversation. Like the top 5, 6, even 7 quarterbacks, he's not a part of that conversation. But what Howie Roseman has done in Philadelphia and what Shane Steichen did up until he left Philadelphia was build a system where Jalen Hurts could be a great quarterback within that system, within the, the players that were around him. And I'm not saying Daniel Jones needs to be like a great quarterback, like a Jalen Hurts type for this team to contend. But I think there's a world where the infrastructure and the system in Indianapolis is better than it was in New York for Daniel Jones. And it's better than it was here in Indianapolis in 2023 when the Colts almost made the playoffs. And I think that's a world where, you say, we need the consistency at the quarterback position because this is our formula for winning games this year. Don't turn the ball over, move the chains, have a better defense than you had in the last couple of years, and this team can contend. And you're also, by the way, you're going to pound the rock with Jonathan Taylor, who is a game changer at running back. So anyways, just something to think about. Thanks to Jason for that question. I know that was a long segment. I had a lot to get out on it. Again, I've been thinking about it for a while and just kind of wanted to, just something to think about. Just something to think about. You may not agree with it. If you don't agree with it, drop a comment to me. I'll be happy. I'm always in those YouTube comments trying to answer, fan messages. Shout out to the one guy who said I look like a child next to Grover Stewart last week on that pod. I'm always looking at those. Always happy to respond and engage in that discussion, and would love to hear what you think, the listener and the viewer, of kind of that long sort of diatribe, that long extended burn take that I just kind of got out there. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Colts Show. Thanks to Michael Pittman Jr. for joining me here on the podcast. Next week, again, a big season preview, and then coming up the week after that, leading into Miami, Daniel Jones is going to be on this podcast. So we'll have a game preview, and we'll have a conversation with Daniel Jones coming up the week leading up to Miami. Next week, though, the full Colts 2025 season preview. If you've made it this far, hopefully you like the podcast. Rate, review, subscribe to us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. That helps get this show out to more people. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll talk to you next week here on The Colts Show.